Everyone's screaming bull run again. Green candles flashing. Timelines flooded. Twitter's lit. Meme coins are surging out of nowhere. Influencers are back, dishing out hot takes and copy-paste conviction. Retail's piling in, same energy, same hope. Like it's 2021 all over again. But let's take a breath. Let's zoom out. Because if you look beneath the surface, this isn't what it seems. This isn't a bull run. This is a reset. Not a celebration, a cleansing. Not a return to the old hype cycle, a rejection of it. What's really happening right now is a quiet but ruthless restructuring of the crypto landscape. Purge. A shift in narrative from trending coins to tested infrastructure. From short-term attention to long-term architecture. Behind the flashy green pumps, something bigger is unfolding. Hype is dying. The noise is collapsing. And for the first time in a long time, substance is starting to matter again. This is the funeral march for meme coins. The final lap for projects built on TikTok trends, Discord cults, and zero utility. The clown show's coming to a close. Because the market is no longer rewarding who can shout the loudest. It's rewarding who's building quietly, legally, and sustainably. The coins that will survive this aren't the ones with the best memes. They're the ones with regulatory clarity, enterprise adoption, and real-world integration. They're not fighting for hype. They're being chosen by banks, institutions, governments. XRP, XLM, HBAR. These aren't just tokens. They're core infrastructure for the future of global finance. They're not trying to go viral. They're trying to build the next version of the internet, of money, of identity. While the crowd keeps chasing dopamine, these projects are laying the bricks of something bigger. A compliant, scalable, institutional future. And when the smoke clears, when the influencers go quiet, when the noise finally dies, these will be the foundations still standing. So if you're still placing bets based on YouTube thumbnails, meme momentum, or the next Shiba, wake up. This is no longer a playground. This is the great sorting. And in the new era, only the useful, the legal, and the real will remain. If you're ready to cut through the noise, position yourself wisely, and finally start thinking like the institutions you're competing with. Like this video, share it with someone still stuck in the hype, and let's get into it. This isn't growth, it's a filter. What we're witnessing right now isn't a market boom. It's a controlled demolition. A strategic cleansing of everything that was artificially inflated by hype, illusion, and borrowed confidence. For the average retail investor, it looks like another bull run. Green charts, meme coins doubling overnight, influencers back in front of ring lights shouting, "We're back!" But behind that noise, a very different game is being played. And only a few truly understand what's unfolding. This isn't a rally fueled by innovation. This isn't excitement about new breakthroughs or real-world solutions. This is the market burning off the rot. Because let's be honest, 4 years, the crypto space has been bloated with vaporware, cash grabs, influencer projects, and community tokens that had no roadmap, no compliance strategy, and no reason to exist beyond social media hype. The market didn't reward value, it rewarded virality. If you had a meme, a cult following, and an influencer or two, you could launch a coin and walk away with millions. But that era? It's over. Quietly, permanently. The capital is no longer flowing toward chaos. It's flowing toward infrastructure. The kind that survives audits, passes regulations, and builds under scrutiny. Because here's the brutal truth. This cycle isn't about who can trend. It's about who can integrate, who can comply, who can scale without breaking the law. And that's why the market right now isn't climbing. It's cleaning house. The so-called bull run is actually a purge in disguise. It's shaking out the projects that were only held together by community delusion. The tokens with no product market fit. The ones that wouldn't survive a single government inquiry. The ones that can't name a real use case outside of speculation. Meme coins aren't crashing dramatically this time. They're doing something worse. They're disappearing slowly, slipping into irrelevance while the market stops paying attention. That's the reset. That's the real story behind this phase. And meanwhile, in the shadows, the infrastructure tokens, the ones that were always dismissed as corporate or boring, are solidifying their place in the next financial architecture. XRP, XLM, HBAR. These aren't just surviving, they're moving quietly and strategically, forming partnerships, locking in enterprise adoption, building rails that regulators are willing to approve and institutions are ready to use. While memecoins fight for likes, these protocols are getting invited into boardrooms. While influencer coins scramble to launch another NFT collection, these projects are stress-testing compliance layers for CBDCs, remittances, and on-chain identity. The rules of the game have changed. It's not about clout. It's about capacity. Not about being loud. About being legal. Not about moonshots. About infrastructure that lasts decades. So if you're still looking at this market through the same lens as 2021, thinking everything green means bullish and everything trending means sustainable, you're missing what's really going on. This isn't a playground anymore. This is a filtering phase, a reset, where every token is being asked one quiet but lethal question. Can you survive regulation? Can you integrate with the real world? Can you serve more than speculators? Because if the answer is no, this cycle will not carry you. It will leave you behind, and it won't look back. This isn't a bull market. It's a reckoning. And only the projects with real-world utility, legal infrastructure, and long-term alignment with institutional systems will make it out. The slow, silent death of hype coins. Let's talk about the layer of this market that's quietly collapsing in real time. The hype coins. The projects that exploded overnight because they had the loudest community, the trendiest memes, and just enough influencer support to go viral. You know the story. A coin launches with a cartoon mascot, a few ironic tweets, maybe a burn mechanism that makes it look deflationary, and suddenly everyone's FOMOing. Telegram groups fill up. Twitter bots amplify the noise. Some YouTuber with a mic and a thumbnail calls it the next 100x. For a while, that model worked. Not because it was sustainable, but because the environment rewarded noise over value. The attention economy was the real currency, and the projects that won the most eyeballs, no matter how hollow, got the capital. But that era has quietly collapsed. Not with fireworks, but with silence. You don't need a crash to kill a hype coin. All it takes is the market evolving past it. And that's exactly what's happening now. The new capital, the serious capital, is no longer gambling on trend coins. Because the fundamentals have changed. Retail isn't as naive. Regulators are more aggressive. And institutions, the real drivers of the next phase, don't invest in memes. They invest in infrastructure, compliance, and systems that can scale globally. So while hype coins still pop up here and there, the shelf life is getting shorter. The liquidity dries up faster. And the exit doors are getting crowded. Because the model is broken now. You can't build a trillion-dollar financial future on joke tokens with no legal clarity, no product, and no utility. You can't onboard governments and central banks with cartoon coins that need Elon Musk's tweets to stay relevant. This cycle is exposing them one by one. And it's not just the low-effort meme projects. Even mid-tier narrative coins, the ones that pretended to be solving problems but never launched a real product, are getting exposed. They thrived in the absence of scrutiny. But now scrutiny is everywhere. And when the market finally asks, what do you actually do? Most of them have no answer. This is the new reality. If your token can't stand in front of a regulator, survive a legal audit, or integrate with enterprise systems, it's not going to make it. Not in 2025. Not in the next cycle. Not when the money gets smarter and the rules get stricter. And make no mistake, the regulators aren't backing down. In the US, in Europe, in Asia, clarity is coming. And when that clarity lands, it's going to act like a blade, slicing through the ecosystem, leaving only those projects with real utility and legal resilience. The coins that survive won't be the ones that got retweeted the most. They'll be the ones that already prepared for regulation, already tested real-world use cases, and already started onboarding institutions. That's why this cycle is not a playground. It's a courtroom, and hype coins have no legal defense. So if your portfolio is still filled with tokens that rely on virality, you need to ask yourself something painful. What happens when the noise fades? What happens when your coin stops trending, when the influencer moves on, when retail wakes up and liquidity disappears? Because that's what's coming. Not a crash, a freeze-out. The lights will stay on, but nobody will be watching. The volume will dry up. The community will get quiet. And the charts will go flat. Not because they dumped, but because they were never designed to last. This isn't fear. This is structure. And structure always wins in the end. The rise of the quiet builders XRP, XLM, HBAR. While memecoins scramble for one last pump and narrative tokens chase engagement just to stay afloat, there's a different kind of movement happening, one that most retail investors are completely blind to. It's not loud. It's not trendy. It's not designed to go viral. But it's real. And it's fundamental to the next chapter of global finance. Let's break it down. As the hype cycle burns out, what we're left with is a vacuum, a need for real, scalable, compliant financial infrastructure. And there are a handful of projects that have been quietly building that infrastructure for years. They're not interested in meme culture. They're not pandering to influencers. They're building for banks, governments, enterprises, and global institutions. They're playing a different game, and that's why they're still standing. Start with XRP. The project that's been dragged through legal battles, dismissed by mainstream media, and yet, here it is, not only surviving, but gaining clarity and traction. XRP isn't trying to win the attention economy. It's building the plumbing for instant, low-cost cross-border payments, and not for the average user, but for the big players, central banks, financial institutions, and regulated money transmitters. While others run from regulation, XRP has been facing it head-on. And now, they're emerging with legal clarity in one of the most difficult jurisdictions in the world, the United States. That's not noise. That's positioning. Then there's Stellar XLM, often overlooked, often underestimated, but deeply rooted in real-world adoption, especially in underbanked and cross-border corridors where traditional finance is still broken. Stellar isn't trying to trend. It's working behind the scenes to bridge traditional finance and blockchain, especially in emerging markets. Its partnership with MoneyGram, its focus on CBDC integration, and its alignment with regulatory bodies all point in one direction: long-term relevance. And then you've got HBAR Hedera Hashgraph, the quiet juggernaut. HBAR doesn't talk. It integrates. With LG, Google, IBM, Dell, Boeing, you're not looking at a retail-focused hype token here. You're looking at a corporate-grade, high-throughput, energy-efficient DLT, chosen by enterprises for real-world deployment. From supply chain to identity, from carbon credits to tokenization of real assets, HBAR is positioning itself as infrastructure. It doesn't need to go viral because it's being adopted in boardrooms that don't care about memes. They care about reliability, legality, and performance. These are not just altcoins. They are systems, rails, foundations. They're building in compliance with what's coming, not in denial of it. And the biggest clue? Institutions are partnering with them. They're not launching hype campaigns, they're signing NDAs, running pilots, and building prototypes. That's what real adoption looks like. Not a token that trends, but a token that gets embedded in financial software, mobile wallets, international remittance pipelines, and supply chain backends. This is why XRP, XLM, and HBAR are not only surviving the wipeout, they're emerging as the backbone of the regulated crypto future. They're not fighting for attention. They're laying the bricks for systems that the world will quietly depend on, whether retail notices or not. And by the time the average investor realizes it, the smart money will already be all in. Because this cycle doesn't reward hype anymore. It rewards utility, stability, integration. So while the rest are chasing meme pumps and influencer picks, this small group of infrastructure tokens is slowly taking over the foundation. And when the dust settles, that's what everyone will be standing on. The winners of this cycle won't be loud. They'll be legal. If there's one thing this market cycle is making painfully clear, it's this: survival isn't about visibility anymore. It's about viability. In the last era, the loudest projects won. The ones with the flashiest branding, the biggest influencer budgets, the craziest roadmaps, and the wildest speculation, they were rewarded by a market-chasing hype. But now, the algorithm that decides what wins has changed. It's no longer about who trends. It's about who complies. who's building with regulation in mind, not running from it, who's positioning to work with governments, not against them, who's quietly meeting with banks and institutions behind closed doors, not chasing clout on Twitter. Because this isn't just a market shift. This is a regulatory reset. We're entering an era where regulators are no longer playing catch-up. They're stepping in. They're setting rules. And in that environment, the project with the best memes means nothing if it can't pass an audit. Let's be honest, no institution is going to integrate a token whose business model depends on influencers, Discord raids, and anonymous founders. They're going to choose the projects that have clear governance frameworks, are transparent about token economics, can operate within KYC/AML standards, are scalable, secure, and legally bulletproof. And right now, very few projects in the crypto space can tick those boxes. But XRP, XLM, and HBAR? They're among the very few that can. They've been criticized for being centralized, boring, or not crypto enough. But guess what? That's exactly why they're still here. Because in the real world, the one that runs trillions in daily value, not retweets, the winners aren't the rebels. They're the ones who can fit inside the system and upgrade it from within. The coins that will dominate this cycle aren't the wildcards. They're the infrastructure providers, the bridges, the rails. They're the ones quietly forming the connective tissue between TradFi and DeFi, between the old world and the new one. And that's why, while everyone else is fighting for temporary attention, these projects are claiming permanent space. This is the harsh truth. If your favorite project can't sit at the same table as regulators, it won't exist in 5 years. If it can't pass scrutiny, it won't scale. And if it's not ready to plug into real-world financial systems, it's already obsolete, whether the market has priced that in or not. So stop looking at volume spikes as a sign of strength. Stop mistaking virality for validation. Because in this new era, the real value isn't in the chart. It's in the compliance stack, the partnerships, the integration, the trust. The winners of this cycle will move differently. They won't scream. They won't trend. But they'll quietly become the standard. And by the time retail catches on, it'll be too late.